Italian, Irish, Mexican immigrants 100 years ago. And so my grandma grew up in the projects with many black people. And, she always used to say that actually, she would look across the window in her project apartment or whatever, and she saw a black family across the way that was more functional than her own family. She said they would hold hands to say grace before they ate, and her household was up for grabs. So
that must made her feel really bad.
I'm sure, yeah. Psychologically, right? But, by the same token, she encountered a lot of the same problems you see today, a lot of the same violence. She would get robbed or stuck up by black people in the city. But everybody recognizes anybody who lives with black people in the cities will tell you there is a generational difference that the older black people, in many cases, they couldn't even read. My grandma had a school. They taught cops how to shoot their guns. It was a security school. And they would license security guards, cops, do firearms training. And they would train up black people that sometimes couldn't read. They were from the Jim Crow era, from the South.
Right.
But she said they were very honest, very decent, very respectful, polite. So culture makes a huge difference. I don't think it's everything. It's certainly not nothing. And anyone that lived, anyone that had that experience living in a city with black people through the generations will tell you the exact same thing. There's certainly a generational component, but I don't think that explains all of it.
Yeah. Like all my aunts and uncles and my family, there wasn't a bunch of miscreants.
Yeah.
It was like polite.
They always wore suits.
Yeah, they always went to church on Sunday.
Right.
I remember growing up.
There's an image. That's what black people used to dress.
Yeah, that was the common thing to do.
Yeah.
And now, liberals get hold of black people and just turn into progressives, and now this is what you got.
Yeah. I got a question. Do you think if, just a hypothetical, what would solve a majority of America's problems? Say you as president.
Just set them up.
No, this is a setup job. I did not want to set you up. I feel guilty.
This dude is wearing a wire.
What do you think would solve a majority of America's problems? I think, personally, for your answer, I think we listen to women too much.
Oh, yeah.
I think a big problem America has right now is we have too many women in power, and look what happened when we got too many women in power. We got men in women's bathrooms, and that sports is just women just think different than a man.
That's a huge part of it. I mean, you can start with women. You can go to the media. You can go to immigration. I mean, the problem is we can all recognize the country's been getting worse. A lot of things, there was seismic changes 100 years ago. Technology, suffrage, more people voting, more people participating, a lot of immigrants from non-white countries coming here. Things are getting worse, and we're just doing the same things. It's like, you don't think maybe we pause on some of the things that have changed that might have led to some of these things? But, I mean, the women's a huge part of it because, like you said, they think differently. They're way more empathetic, way more, and they're kind of just like suckers, Like
I
men.
like how you said that. That was perfect. Suckers.
Because they're not necessarily dumb, although many of them are, but, because some of them could be very smart, but they just don't have this quality that men have, where men will say, nah, that's bullshit. You're lying. Women don't have that. Women will listen to any story, any sob story and go, filled with empathy and emotion.
Right.
And when you look at who they vote for, this is like a red pill for me. When I was in high school, they said, I said, if you look at the election results, presidential election results, you separate it out by men and women. If only men voted, every state goes red. If only women voted, every state goes blue.
Right.
All you need to know. That's all you need to know.
That's powerful.
And even today, the approval ratings with Trump, men, overwhelmingly positive. Women, overwhelmingly negative. And we know Trump is right. We know the Democrats are wrong, and these are like not difficult issues. Should a country have a border? Can a country run an infinite deficit? Can we have entitlements? Paying people not to work. Like, no, we can't do any of these things. But women, they think that we can. And that's a huge source of the issue, certainly. The diversity is a big part of it. The anti-racism, and not for nothing, but those pictures you show, that was a time when the society was immensely racist. It seems like it was better for both sides, actually.
Right.
And that's not to say, important distinction, it's not to say we're in, because people like to say, make America great again. What, you mean slavery and lynching and, racial hatred? It's like, no. obviously, I'm not a sick person. I'm not a cruel person. I don't want to see people get murdered for their race or their ethnicity. But, you know, what did change, now that people have to walk on eggshells, now that people are afraid to enforce the laws or tell the truth, now there's no rules. Now there's no accountability.
Right. Yeah.
You could say that maybe in the old days there was an excess of justice and it fell into cruelty. It fell into, brutality.
Yeah.
Now we have an excess of mercy. And you could see which one is worse.
Right.
Certainly the excess of mercy and forgiveness, you get a lawless society.
Right.
And I would rather be on the other end of a brutal cop than a brutal thug.
Yeah.
And it's sort of an interesting distinction, right?
Yeah.
Because you hear police brutality. Yeah, police can be brutal, certainly.
Right.
I wouldn't want to be on the other end of that either. But would you rather be on the other end of the law that's brutal, or these young adolescent black men that are brutal, that will execute you for not even having to do with the theft? You know, I referenced a specific case. I said, who's executing people in Lincoln Park? There's a case where they mugged a guy in Lincoln Park, which is a nice white neighborhood, stole his iPhone, demanded the password, and then they shot the guy point blank execution style. Now, why do you kill this guy? You got his iPhone, you got the password, you got what you're looking for.
If you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to create clips like these fast, try Opus Clips. It's smart, simple, and built for creators.